Hi, thank you so much for joining me today. So my name is Lexi Zhang. If you are new to my channel, I am just somebody who really likes makeup. And if you are not new, welcome back. So yesterday I hauled a bunch of Linda Hallberg items, and it is a new to me brand. I've seen lots of things on Instagram, and actually Mel Thompson is another YouTuber who really likes this brand. So I have seen her use this in the past. And I think a lot of her stuff is usually pretty bright and, kind of like wilder looks, which, I like to do once in a while, but it's not my everyday. And so I wanted to test out the Infinity palette, which is a multi-use palette from Linda Hallberg. And I wanted to get kind of a soft, everyday kind of look from that. So that's my goal for today. So, if you are interested in getting ready with me, that's what we will be doing. So right now on my face, I have on the Surratt Perfectioniste Primer. And when I've been applying this recently, I really concentrated mostly in the T-zone. It really gives a really nice pore blurring effect. And I'm enjoying this primer. So then on top of that, I have the Clé de Peau Radiant Cream to Powder Foundation in shade I-10. And the Radiant Corrector Pen from Clé de Peau in shade Ivory. So I set everything with the lightest dusting of the Pat McGrath Blurring Under Eye Powder in shade Light, which is white. And again, to me, this is very similar to the By Terry Hyaluronic Hydro Powder in Original. So I feel like quantity wise, you need to use, with both of them, use a very, very light hand. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this palette. So this is actually the top row, this is the bottom, but there's a mirror here, so I don't want to blind you. And this is obviously, so it goes like this. So I think we're gonna start off with the eyes, and I'm gonna start off with this shade right here. I'm not sure how to say it, Mafe or Mafe. And this is the Isom G34. So we're gonna get started with this. Just give me a second and I will scooch in. Okay, so one thing I neglected to mention is I did put a little bit of this Guerlain Eye Stay Primer on my lids, just a tiny bit. This primer I think is okay. It's not my favorite. But I do like it. I don't find that it works as well as some other primers. I think the Anastasia Beverly Hills one is probably my favorite primer. And but this one, I like it. It's decent. And I like to use things up. So I am using it still. So I'm taking the Isom G34. This is the shade Mafe. And I'm just kind of tapping off any excess. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in the crease, but this is a really large brush, so I'm kind of getting all over, and that is kind of what I want. So we are going to kind of just blend this everywhere and kind of extend it a little bit up to the brow and a little bit down below on the lid. All right, let's just add a little bit more. All right, so this is what I have so far. Next, I'm moving on to the Isom S33 brush, which is slightly smaller, and I'm going to move into the shade below that, which is called Cigar. And I'm just kind of getting that all over the brush. And again, tapping this off. This does end up, kind of tapping off quite a bit. So I'm going to apply this, concentrating on the outer half. I'm going to extend it out a little bit as well. any creepy breathing or noises you hear are my youngest daughter, who is dancing around on the other side of the room. Okay, so that's it for cigar. And then I'm going to take, this is the Smith Cosmetics brush in 253. And I'm going to go into this champagne shade. This is a shimmer shade. It's called Virgio. And I'm just going to kind of pack that on to the inner portion. Okay, so this is a really light look, and I think now I'm just going to go ahead and go back to the original Esom G34 and kind of blend. I'm not adding any product. Okay, I'm going to go back in with this Smith Cosmetics 253, and you can see that this is kind of like a angled brush, and I'm going to dab just the tip into this brightest shade. This is called Milky Way, and I'm going to do the inner corner with this. So I'm just putting it on the tip here. Okay, so this is a really light, natural look, and I'm just going to line it with shadow. I'm going to go into this black shade, which is called Fornax, and this is the Linda Hallberg brush 333. So I'm just going to kind of tap it in here, and again, tap off any excess, and I'm going to line my eyes with this. So all of these shades can be worn wet to get more impact, but again, I'm trying to go for a really light, soft look. So I'm using what's left on the brush to kind of go with the under eye. Okay, so I'm wiping the excess off of this brush, and I'm going to go back into Cigar and just get a little bit, tap it off, and kind of do the under eye and go over that Fornax to kind of lighten that up a little bit. And you can see I'm starting more from the inner corner, whereas I really left off with the Fornax kind of like halfway through. Okay, so now that I have that line, I want to go back in with the Smith Cosmetics, and I feel like I just need a little bit more of that champagne color. So I'm going back into Virgio, and I'm just going to pack a little bit more of that on here. And I'm putting this basically all over the mobile lid, but I'm starting in the inner corner and just kind of tapping over the edges of where Cigar was laid. Okay, so I will be right back. I'm going to curl my lashes and put on some mascara, and then I'll be back and we can do the cheeks. Okay, so I'm back. The eyes are done, just very, very light look. And I think for the cheeks today, we're gonna go ahead and go in with Andromeda, which is this peachy pink. And I'm going to try this Linda Hallberg brush. This is 310. It's the biggest brush that I have. And I'm just going to kind of tap it in here. I feel like we can add a little bit more. As I'm using this shade, I'm seeing that there's actually a little bit of gold micro glitter in it, but it's very, very sparse. So it's not completely matte, but it's pretty close. I feel like this brush is doing an okay job, but I'm wondering if a different brush would pick product up better. So I'm going to switch to, this is the Refer 04, and I'm going to just kind of put some on the brush here, put some here, and oh yeah, so this definitely applies the color better than the synthetic. It's actually a little bit too much. All right, so I think I need to kind of diffuse a little bit of that. So I'm gonna wipe off this brush and just kind of swirl that a little bit, kind of buff that. All right, and then I wanna go over that a little bit with a face powder. I'm going to use the Chantecaille. This is the Hummingbird powder, the Perfect Blur. And I'm going to go in with, this is the Sonia G Master Face Brush. And I just kind of want to diffuse this a little bit. Okay, so I think that's better. And now let's go ahead and try highlight. So I'm going to go ahead and try this. I'm going to mix Vergio and Milky Way, these two here for highlight. And I'm going to try, this is the Linda Hallberg 306. So I'm just going to kind of tap back and forth a couple times, tap off any excess. It does give a nice sheen. All right, and I'm just gonna add a little bit to the tip here and just kind of tap it under the brow. Okay, so I like the sheen of those. It looks pretty nice. And yeah, so that's it for that. And then I think for lips, I want to try one of the new Fantastic lipsticks. And I want to try the shade Ametrine, which is kind of like a plummy color. All right, so it is very smooth. It's not sticky. It's a little thick. It kind of makes me think of a thicker version of a Chantecaille Lip Chic. You know, you can get that sheer wash, and I think, let's see. I think you can build this up a bit, but not super dark, because it does kind of have like a sheer base to it. but texturally, I really do like the texture a lot. So this is Ametrine. All right. Okay, so it's been 6 hours since I applied the makeup, and I just wanted to go through my thoughts with you guys. First, one thing I wanted to note, the lipstick, the Ametrine lipstick, scent-wise, there really isn't too much of a scent. There's a very, very faint, maybe like berry-ish type scent, but it's super faint. I actually didn't notice it until I actually went to specifically smell it. So, you know, it is a light scent. And overall, let me go through how things wore. The lipstick actually wore very well for several hours. When it did wear off, there was no stain left on my lips. So it wore off pretty much completely. It, you know, has a really like creamy, balmy kind of texture to it. So it feels more like a thick lip balm than like a lipstick. And I find that incredibly comfortable to wear. So I really enjoyed it, and it's not something I would mind reapplying. So I really love the lipstick a lot. And I personally really like this color. It's kind of like a plummy rose kind of color. I just feel like it's a little bit more unique than a lot of other colors that I've seen recently. You know, I don't know. I particularly like this particular shade. Everything else you can see has worn very well. And I don't have any creasing or fallout. The highlighter is still present. Blush and everything is still there. And let me just say, like, when I started to apply this, at first I was applying the Infinity palette and I was feeling a little bit disappointed because I guess I just thought everything was gonna be like ultra pigmented and I'd have to like really kind of blend it out. But that's not the case. This is really more something that's more sheer and you build up. And that's actually really nice. So overall, I like the palette. I wouldn't say that I absolutely love this palette. I love the concept and I think it works really well. And, you know, the actual colors would I think they give a very nice, like all over look. And it can be very neutral. I think this would be fantastic for travel. And, you know, overall, I think it's great. I just feel like the shadows could be a little bit more pigmented than they are. And I had to kind of pack on the shadow, particularly this Vergio shade. I kind of had to pack that on a lot to get the impact that I wanted. So I do wish they were slightly more pigmented, but everything wore well. There is quite a bit of fallout in the pan, but I did not experience any on my face. Although again, remember to tap that brush beforehand. So there is a bit of kick up when you go in with your brush. But overall, I think it is a great palette. You know, if you're looking for like just one thing, so just one multi-use kind of palette, this is a great option. However, if I were at home and just kind of, I had, you know, all of my makeup available, this is not what I would reach for. This is definitely something I would take for traveling. If I was somebody who traveled a lot, or, you know, especially if I was traveling a lot for work, I think this would be a really great option for that. And yeah, so that's it on the palette. And sorry. And for the brushes, I need to play with those a little bit more. I think they are okay. They are synthetic. I prefer natural hair, so that's part of it. But for a synthetic brush, so far they seem okay. I haven't used them enough to really give any sort of judgment. But once I've had the opportunity to use them more, then I will definitely give you guys a more thoroughly thought out opinion on those. So overall, I would say for me, the standout product are these lipsticks. I think they are fantastic. I love the texture, love the feeling. I love how well they last. And I particularly love this color. So that is my favorite. I love the concept of the Infinity palette. I do feel like it just fell a little bit short just because I feel like the actual powders could be maybe a little bit less powdery and slightly more pigmented. So those are my only comments on that. And that's everything. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope this was helpful. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you in my next video. So have a happy and healthy day. Bye.